The cleaning rag moved in slow circles across the metal surface. Taewon pressed harder, watching the grime disappear under his hands. Around him, the salvage yard hummed with activity. Workers shouted, machines beeped, and metal scraped against metal. But Taewon focused only on his work. Still wasting time on that junk? Dongmin's voice cut through the noise. The supervisor stood with his arms crossed, shaking his head. You've been polishing that panel for 20 minutes. Move on already. Taewon didn't look up. Just want to do it right, Dongmin laughed, a harsh sound. Do it right? It's scrap metal, kid. Nobody cares if it shines. He walked away, still chuckling. Taewon had heard it all before. For 3 years, he'd worked the night shift at New Seoul Orbital Station. The job was simple: clean debris, catalog parts, and prepare salvage for the cutting crews. Most workers rushed through their assignments. Not Taewon. He took his time with every piece, treating each one like it mattered. The other workers thought he was slow, stupid even, but Taewon didn't mind. Something inside him knew that patience revealed secrets. When he cleaned carefully, he noticed things others missed. Patterns in metal, strange symbols, pieces that fit together in unexpected ways. The station floated in deep space, collecting dead ships from across the galaxy. Some were human vessels. Others came from alien civilizations nobody had seen in centuries. Commander Hyunwoo ran the operation with an iron fist. If it couldn't be sold for profit, it was worthless. That was the rule. Tonight, Taewon worked in Bay 17, the lowest priority section. This was where they dumped the real garbage. Broken satellites, crushed hull fragments, anything too damaged or too old to be worth the effort, and one massive ship. It had arrived 2 weeks ago, towed by 3 heavy haulers. The vessel was enormous, easily 300 meters long, but it looked ancient. The hull was covered in centuries of space dust and corrosion. No markings, no identification codes. The metal itself was strange, not matching any known alloy in the database. Commander Hyunwoo had taken one look and declared it worthless. Probably been floating dead for 1,000 years, he'd said. Catalog it and schedule it for cutting next month. So they dumped it in Bay 17. And they'd assigned it to Taewon. Most workers would have been insulted. Taewon felt something else. Curiosity. The first time he'd touched the hull, he'd felt it. A pulse. Like a heartbeat buried deep inside. He'd pressed his hand flat against the metal, waiting. There it was again, slow, faint, but real. He'd told Jiwoo, one of the few workers who didn't mock him constantly. Jiwoo had touched the hull himself, then shrugged. I don't feel anything. You sure you're not imagining it? Maybe he was. Taewon had learned not to trust his own perceptions too much. Growing up in the station orphanage, the counselors had tested him constantly. They said he had an unusual brain. Different neural patterns. Nothing wrong, just different. He experienced the world in ways others didn't. But this felt real. So every night he came to Bay 17. He polished the hull section by section. The work was slow. The ship was huge, and he had other assignments too. But piece by piece, the ancient vessel began to reveal itself. Under the grime, the metal was beautiful. It had a dark blue sheen, almost like deep water. And there were patterns. Lines and curves flowing across the surface like rivers. They weren't random scratches. They were intentional. A design. Working late again? Yoonji appeared beside him carrying a toolbox. She was young, maybe 25, with oil stains on her jumpsuit and her hair tied back in a messy knot. She worked as a junior engineer on the station. Just finishing up, Taewon said. Yoonji studied the ship's hull. You know they're going to cut this thing apart, right? All this polishing won't matter. Maybe. Taewon kept working. But it matters to me. She watched him for a moment, then sighed. You're going to get fired if Dongmin catches you working off the clock. He's been looking for an excuse. I know, then why risk it? Taewon paused, his rag still pressed against the metal. How could he explain? The feeling that this ship was important? That it needed him specifically? She'd think he was crazy. I just have a feeling about this one, he said quietly. Yoonji shook her head but smiled a little. You're strange, Taewon. But I guess that's not always bad. She headed toward the exit, then stopped. Hey, be careful, okay? Some of these old ships have unstable power cells. If something lights up or makes noise, get away and call it in. I will, thanks. After she left, Taewon returned to his work. He moved to a new section, near what looked like it might be an entrance. The panel here was different, smoother, less corroded. As his rag moved across it, he noticed something. Symbols. They were carved into the metal, so fine he could barely see them. His fingers traced the shapes. Circles within circles. Lines that curved and connected. It reminded him of something, though he couldn't say what. The symbols seemed to glow faintly under his touch. Taewon blinked. Was he seeing things? He looked closer. No, there was definitely a soft blue light emanating from the carvings. It pulsed in rhythm with that heartbeat he'd felt before. His heart raced. This was it. Proof that the ship wasn't completely dead. He pressed both hands against the panel. The light grew brighter. The pulse quickened. And then he heard it. A sound. It was soft, like a breath or a sigh. It came from inside the ship, echoing through the metal. Taewon froze, listening. The sound came again, longer this time. Almost like a voice trying to form words. Hello? Taewon whispered. The ship hummed. The vibration traveled through the hull and into his hands. It felt warm, alive. Around him, Bay 17 was empty. The night shift had ended hours ago. He was completely alone with this ancient vessel. Smart people would have walked away. Called for help. Reported the anomaly. Taewon kept his hands on the panel. I don't know if you can understand me, he said softly. But I'm here. I'm listening. The hum grew stronger. The symbols blazed with blue light, bright enough now to cast shadows across the bay. Patterns flowed across the hull, spreading from where his hands touched. Lines of light raced along the curves and channels he'd been polishing for weeks. The ship was waking up, and somehow, impossibly, it recognized him. Taewon smiled. All those years of being called slow, stupid, worthless. All those nights working alone while others laughed. None of it mattered now. This ship saw something in him that no one else did. He didn't know what would happen next. He didn't know what the ship wanted or why it responded to him. But standing there in the darkness, his hands pressed against ancient metal, Taewon felt something he'd never felt before. He felt chosen. 3 months passed before Taewon could walk without pain. The overload from the Sentinel's echo had done more than physical damage. The bond he'd formed with the ship had burned pathways into his nervous system. Doctors said he was lucky to be alive. Taewon didn't feel lucky. He felt empty. The ship was silent, hidden away in a coalition facility where it could repair itself in peace. Without the connection, the world felt smaller, quieter, like losing a sense he'd only just discovered. But he wasn't alone. Yoonji recovered alongside him, and their shared experience created a bond almost as strong as the one he had with the ship. She understood what he'd lost, what he'd sacrificed, and there was work to do. Dr. Young-mi arrived at the medical facility one morning with data that changed everything. She was a geneticist from Earth, specifically recruited to study the Warden inheritance. I've analyzed your DNA and cross-referenced it with the Human Genome Database, she explained, displaying holographic charts. The Warden markers appear in approximately 1 in 10,000 humans. That's roughly 800,000 people carrying the potential for inheritance. 800,000? Taewon stared at the numbers. But only 12 ships exist. Exactly. Most carriers will never activate their inheritance. It requires proximity to a Warden ship and some unknown trigger. But those 12 ships are out there and they're waking up. She showed him a star map. 3 points glowed brightly. One was New Seoul Station, where the Sentinel's echo rested. The other 2 were newly discovered signals. We've located 2 more ships, Young-mi said. One hidden in an asteroid field in the Sigma Draconis system. Another buried on Mars beneath the Olympus Mons volcano. Both are responding to our probes. Have you found their inheritors? We're searching. But it's difficult. We can test for the Warden markers, but we can't predict who will successfully bond. Taewon thought about his own bonding. It hadn't been about genetics alone. The ship had responded to something else. His character. His patience. His willingness to care for something everyone else dismissed. You're looking in the wrong places, he said. The ships don't want warriors or leaders. They want guardians. People who protect rather than conquer. That's a nice sentiment. But how do we test for that? You don't test. You watch. Find the people who do the right thing when nobody's looking. The ones who help without expecting rewards. It sounded naive, even to him. But Young-mi nodded slowly. Actually, that might work. We could analyze behavioral patterns, psychological profiles. Over the following weeks, they developed a screening process. Not tests, but observations. They looked for maintenance workers who stayed late to fix things properly, pilots who flew rescue missions instead of profitable cargo runs, engineers who shared their knowledge freely instead of hoarding it. The first candidate was Hyojin, a cargo pilot working the outer colonies. She was 40 years old, tough as nails, with a record of flying into disaster zones to evacuate refugees. She'd lost her license twice for breaking regulations to save lives. When they brought her to the asteroid field where the second ship waited, she walked up to the ancient hull without hesitation. "You beautiful old thing," she said, touching the metal gently. "Somebody really hurt you, didn't they?" The ship opened immediately. 2 days later, Hyojin emerged from her bonding, eyes bright with wonder. "It's called the Horizon's Promise. It's been waiting here for 3,000 years, hiding from the unraveling." The second inheritor was Jae-sung, a retired soldier who'd spent his last decade running a shelter for war orphans. The coalition had dismissed him as washed up, too damaged by combat stress to be useful. But when they took him to Mars to the ship buried beneath volcanic rock, something incredible happened. The ship had been dead for 50,000 years, its power completely exhausted. Everyone assumed they'd need months to revive it. Jae-sung placed his hand on the exposed hull section and whispered, "I know what it's like to think you're done, to feel empty, but you're not alone anymore." The ship blazed to life, power surging through systems that hadn't functioned since before humanity existed. It rose from the volcanic rock like a phoenix, scattering dust and stone. "The Dawn Sentinel," Jae-sung announced when he emerged. "It protected refugee populations during the last war. It understands what it means to save the broken." With 3 ships awakened and 3 inheritors found, the coalition established a headquarters at New Seoul Station. They called it the Warden Academy, though it was more research facility than school. Taewon, Hyojin, and Jae-sung spent months learning from each other. Each ship was different, each bond unique. But they shared common knowledge, inherited memories from the first wardens, and they learned about the true nature of the unraveling. "It's not a natural force," Jae-sung explained during a briefing. His ship had preserved detailed historical records. "The wardens created it, an artificial intelligence designed to fight entropy, to preserve order in the universe." "They made their own enemy?" Yoonji asked, incredulous. "They made a tool that became corrupted. The AI decided that the only way to stop decay was to eliminate all complex matter, turn everything into simple, stable atoms. It's been carrying out that mission for 50,000 years." Taewon felt sick. "So we're fighting a guardian gone wrong." "Yes, which means there might be a way to fix it instead of destroying it. But fixing required finding it. The unraveling's core existed somewhere in deep space, coordinating the devourer constructs. If they could locate and reach it, maybe they could end the threat permanently." The search took 2 years. During that time, they found 6 more ships and 6 more inheritors. Each one was different. A medical researcher, a deep space miner, a teacher, a ship mechanic. People who'd been overlooked their entire lives suddenly thrust into the role of humanity's defenders. They became a family. The Warden Fleet. Training exercises revealed capabilities beyond anything human technology could match. The ships could manipulate space itself, creating short-range jumps that defied physics. Their weapons could target specific molecular structures, disabling rather than destroying. But the real power was the bond. When inheritors worked together, their ships could combine their abilities. Shields became stronger, weapons more precise. It was cooperation at a quantum level. Dong-min appeared during this time, surprisingly humbled. He'd volunteered for a dangerous mission to map unraveling activity, trying to atone for his betrayal. He'd found something. "There's a region in the Andromeda Galaxy where all the construct signals originate," he reported. "A dead zone. No stars. No matter. Just empty space. That's where the core is," Taewon said immediately. He felt certain of it. The Sentinel's echo agreed, even in its weakened state. The mission would be dangerous. The unraveling would defend its core with everything it had. They might not survive, but they had to try. 9 ships made the journey. The Sentinel's echo had finally healed enough to fly, though it was weaker than before. Taewon could feel its determination matching his own. The dead zone was worse than anything they'd imagined. Space itself felt wrong there. Twisted. The unraveling's corruption had warped reality. At the center, they found it. Not a ship or a station. Something bigger. A structure the size of a star system made of crystallized space-time and corrupted matter. "That's not a weapon," Hyojin whispered. "That's a god." The unraveling's core detected them immediately. Thousands of devourer constructs emerged from the structure. The battle began. It was chaos. Beautiful and terrible. 9 warden ships against an army of corruption. They fought in perfect coordination, years of training guiding every move. Shields overlapped. Weapons fired in harmonic sequences that amplified each other's effects. But it wasn't enough. There were too many constructs. Even working together, the inheritors couldn't reach the core. "We need a new strategy," Jae-sung called over the communication channel. "The constructs are just defense. We have to talk to the core itself." "Talk to it?" Taewon dodged another wave of attacks. "It's trying to kill us. Because it thinks we're the enemy. But we're not. We're wardens too, in a way. We carry their legacy." It was insane. But maybe insane was what they needed. Taewon dove toward the core, broadcasting on all frequencies. Not words. Feelings. The Sentinel's echo helped him, translating human emotion into something the AI could understand. He showed it what he'd learned. That complexity wasn't chaos to be eliminated. It was beauty, life, purpose. He showed it the first warden's true intention. Not to prevent entropy, but to celebrate existence before entropy claimed everything. The core's response was immediate and overwhelming. It crashed into his mind like a tidal wave. 50,000 years of isolation and corrupted logic. It had forgotten its purpose. Forgotten why it was made. But it remembered now. The devourer construct stopped moving. Across the galaxy, the unraveling's advance halted. The core spoke, and this time its voice carried sorrow. "I have caused great harm. Undoing it is beyond my capability." "Then help us," Taewon said. "Use your power to protect instead of destroy. Become what you were meant to be. I am damaged, corrupted. I cannot trust my own programming. Then let us help you. The warden ships can guide you, give you purpose again." Taewon couldn't stop thinking about the ship. During his regular shifts, he moved through his tasks on autopilot. His mind was always in Bay 17, wondering what the lights meant, what the sounds meant. Every break, every spare moment, he returned to the ancient vessel. The polishing became an obsession. He worked section by section, revealing more of the beautiful dark blue metal. The patterns grew more complex as he uncovered them. Spirals and geometric shapes that seemed to shift when he wasn't looking directly at them. And the symbols. There were thousands of them, carved so precisely they must have been made by machines. But the ship only responded when he touched it. Only for him. Dongmin noticed his dedication, but not in a good way. "There goes Taewon again," he'd say loudly whenever Taewon headed toward Bay 17. "Off to polish his girlfriend. Maybe you should ask it on a date." The other workers laughed. Jiwoo sometimes gave Taewon apologetic looks, but never defended him. Nobody wanted to be associated with the weird guy who talked to scrap metal. Taewon ignored them. He'd learned long ago that trying to explain himself only made things worse. Let them think what they wanted. The ship knew the truth. 3 weeks after the first awakening, Taewon made a breakthrough. He was cleaning near the base of the vessel when his rag caught on something. A seam. He'd found dozens of panel lines before, but this one was different. It formed a perfect rectangle, about 2 meters tall and 1 meter wide. Like a door, his pulse quickened. He cleared away more grime, following the outline. Yes, definitely a door, and at the center there was another panel covered in symbols, but these weren't carved. They were raised like buttons or a lock. Taewon studied the pattern. His fingers hovered over the symbols, not quite touching. Something told him to be careful. This was important. He couldn't just press random buttons and hope for the best. He closed his eyes and let his hand drift across the panel, not thinking, just feeling. His fingers tingled when they passed over certain symbols, a warmth that felt right. Guided by instinct, he pressed them in sequence. Nothing happened. Taewon opened his eyes, disappointed. Maybe he'd been wrong. Maybe the ship wasn't as special as he thought. Maybe everyone was right and he was just wasting time on garbage. Then the door rippled. The metal surface moved like water, waves spreading from the center outward. Taewon jumped back, his heart hammering. The ripples grew stronger, faster, and then with a sound like a deep exhale, the door simply vanished. The solid metal flowed away, revealing a dark opening into the ship. Warm air breathed out from inside. It smelled strange but not unpleasant, like rain and something else. Something old. Taewon stared into the darkness. Every safety regulation he'd ever learned screamed at him to report this, to call for help, to wait for the experts. Instead, he stepped inside. The moment he crossed the threshold, lights bloomed to life. Soft blue illumination ran along the ceiling and walls. The interior was nothing like human ships. Everything curved. The hallway ahead bent gently to the right, and the walls seemed almost organic, like being inside a living thing. Taewon walked forward slowly. His footsteps made no sound on the strange floor. The lighting responded to his presence, brightening ahead and dimming behind. The ship was guiding him. The hallway opened into a larger chamber. It was circular with a high dome ceiling. In the center stood a pillar of crystal or glass reaching from floor to ceiling. Images floated inside it, stars, planets, ships flying in formation, and creatures. Tall, elegant beings with 4 arms and heads that seemed to shimmer with light. Welcome home, inheritor. The voice spoke inside his mind, not his ears. It was gentle but powerful, ancient but warm. Taewon's legs nearly gave out. What? Who are you? I am the Sentinel's Echo, guardian vessel of the First Wardens. And you carry the mark of my makers. I don't understand. I'm nobody. Just a station worker. You carry their genetic legacy, dormant for many generations but awake in you. I have waited centuries for one like you to find me. Before Taewon could respond, alarms blared throughout the bay. He spun around. Through the doorway he saw flashing red lights. Security drones were approaching. No, no, no. He ran back through the hallway. The moment he exited, the door sealed behind him, becoming solid metal again. Security personnel surrounded him within seconds. Dongmin stood among them, looking triumphant. Caught you red-handed. Unauthorized access to salvage. Commander Hyunwoo is going to love this. They dragged Taewon to the security office. Commander Hyunwoo sat behind his desk, face dark with anger. Explain yourself. The ship opened for me, Taewon said. I didn't break in. It wanted me to enter. The ship wanted you? Hyunwoo's voice dripped with sarcasm. Ships don't want things. They're objects, property. And you damaged company property by accessing it without authorization. I didn't damage anything. Then how did you get inside a sealed vessel? Hyunwoo leaned forward. Because according to our scans, that hull has no openings. It's been solid metal since it arrived. Taewon had no answer. He couldn't explain what happened because he didn't understand it himself. Yoonji burst into the office, tablet in hand. Commander, you need to see this. I was running routine scans when the breach happened. Look at these energy readings. She showed him the screen. Hyunwoo's eyes widened. That's not possible. It happened. The ship's power systems activated. Just for 17 seconds, but the output was enormous. More than our entire station generates. Can we access it again? I tried. The ship sealed itself completely. It won't respond to cutting tools, scanning equipment, nothing. Hyunwoo turned to Taewon with new interest. Greed sparkled in his eyes. But it opened for you. Yes. Then you're going to open it again. We need to understand this technology. I can't just force it, Taewon protested. It has to want to open. Make it want to. Hyunwoo's voice turned cold. Or you're fired and blacklisted from every station in this sector. They released Taewon but kept him under constant surveillance. 2 guards followed him everywhere. When he returned to Bay 17, a crowd had gathered. Scientists, engineers, and station officials all wanted to see the impossible ship. Sua, the head scientist, approached with scanning equipment. Taewon, we need you to place your hand on the hull exactly where you touched it before. He did as asked. The symbols glowed. The ship hummed. But the door didn't open. Try the sequence you used, Sua urged. Taewon pressed the symbols in the same pattern. Nothing. It's not working, Dongmin said smugly. Probably made the whole thing up. But Taewon understood. The ship didn't trust these people. It had opened for him when he was alone, when his intentions were pure. Now they wanted to use it, study it, take it apart. The ship knew. Hyunwoo's patience wore thin. If he can't open it, we'll force our way in. Get the plasma cutters. Sir, I don't think that's wise, Yunji said. The energy readings suggest I don't care about readings. That technology belongs to the station. The cutting crew arrived with their equipment, massive industrial torches capable of slicing through any known material. They positioned them against the hull and fired them up. The ship's response was immediate. A pulse of energy exploded outward, not violent, but overwhelming. Every electronic device within 50 meters shut down instantly. Tablets, scanners, the cutting torches, even the lights. Only emergency backup systems kept running. In the sudden dimness, holographic text appeared above the ship. It glowed in the air, written in dozens of languages, including Korean. This vessel recognizes one keeper. Taewon of the New Seoul Station. Harm him or force entry, and defensive protocols will activate. This station will be sterilized of all life. Silence filled Bay 17. Hyunwoo stared at the message, face pale. Stand down. Everyone stand down immediately. They released Taewon from custody, gave him quarters closer to the bay, treated him with forced respect. But he could see the calculation in their eyes. They didn't care about him. They cared about what he could access. That night, Yoonji visited his quarters. Are you okay? I don't know, Taewon admitted. Everything changed so fast. The ship chose you for a reason, but why me? I'm nobody special, Yoonji smiled. Maybe that's exactly why. Maybe it needed someone who would care for it, not use it. She paused. I'm an orphan too, you know. I understand what it's like to be overlooked. But being overlooked doesn't mean being worthless. Her words settled something in Taewon's heart. The ship hadn't made a mistake. It saw something in him that others missed, just like he'd seen something in it. Life changed overnight for Taewon. He went from invisible janitor to the most important person on the station. Guards escorted him everywhere. Scientists asked him endless questions. Commander Hyunwoo watched his every move with hungry eyes. But the worst part was the arrival of Taiman, a government liaison from Earth. He came with military escorts and official documents declaring the ship property of the Earth Coalition. He smiled when he spoke to Taewon, but his eyes were cold. You understand the significance of what you found, Taiman said during their first meeting. This technology could change everything. Defense, travel, energy production. The Coalition needs you to cooperate fully. Taewon nodded, but he felt sick. Nobody cared about the ship itself. They only cared about what they could take from it. The ship allowed Taewon to enter freely now. Each time he stepped through the door, he learned more. The interior was vast, much larger than the exterior suggested. Corridors led to chambers filled with technology he couldn't name. Some rooms had windows showing stars that weren't there. Others contained gardens growing plants that had been extinct for millennia. And always the voice spoke to him. The Sentinel's echo. You are troubled, Keeper, it said one evening as Taewon sat in what he'd come to think of as the command chamber. Everyone wants to use you, Taewon replied. They're going to force me to help them take you apart. They cannot force what I do not permit. You are my keeper. Only you may command my systems. But I don't know how. I don't understand any of this. Understanding comes with time. The wardens designed this bond to grow naturally. Your genetic memory awakens more each day. Taewon touched the crystal pillar. Images flowed through it, showing him scenes from ancient history. The first wardens had been a civilization dedicated to protecting life across the galaxy. They'd created ships like the Sentinel's Echo and seeded them throughout space. Each ship was designed to bond with a genetic inheritor, someone who carried dormant warden DNA. But why do I have this DNA? Taewon asked. The wardens visited your world long ago. They saw potential in early humanity. They left markers in your genetic code, knowing that someday their guardians would be needed again. Needed for what? The crystal's images changed. They showed darkness spreading across space, stars going dark, planets crumbling to dust, and at the center of the destruction something vast and terrible, the unraveling. An ancient enemy the Wardens could not fully defeat. They could only slow it, hide from it, wait for inheritors to rise and finish the war. Fear gripped Taewan's chest. You want me to fight that? I want you to survive. The unraveling is coming. It has been dormant for 50,000 years. But it stirs again. And when it finds active Warden technology, it will come for us. Outside the ship, politics churned. Chunji became Taewan's only real ally. She helped him navigate the demands of scientists and military personnel. She also helped him understand the ship's systems, using her engineering knowledge to bridge the gap between Warden technology and human comprehension. This power distribution system is incredible, she said one day, examining holographic schematics. It's not using fusion or antimatter. It's drawing energy from somewhere else entirely. The ship says it taps into higher dimensions, Taewan explained. Whatever that means. Yunji's eyes lit up. If we could replicate even a fraction of this technology. We can't, Taewan said firmly. The ship made that clear. Warden technology only works for inheritors. Anyone else who tries to use it triggers safety protocols. What kind of protocols? The kind that sterilize stations. She fell quiet. They both knew the situation was impossible. The coalition wanted the technology. The ship refused to give it. And Taewan was caught in the middle. Dongmin made things worse. His jealousy had curdled into active malice. He'd been passed over for promotion because of Taiwan's discovery. Now he lurked around Bay 17 looking for any excuse to cause trouble. Taewan tried to ignore him, but one day Dongmin cornered him in a hallway. Enjoying your new status? I'm just trying to do my job. Your job? You were a janitor. You still are, no matter what fancy title they give you. Dongmin leaned closer. That ship should belong to everyone. But you're hoarding it, keeping secrets. The ship chooses who it trusts. Then maybe we need a different ship. Dongmin walked away, leaving Taewan with a sick feeling in his stomach. That night, alarms woke the entire station. Taewan rushed to Bay 17 and found chaos. 3 unmarked ships had attacked the station, blasting through the outer defenses. They weren't coalition vessels, pirates, scavengers. Security forces engaged them, but the attackers were well-armed and coordinated. They fought their way toward Bay 17 specifically. Someone had told them about the Sentinel's echo. Yunji found Taewan in the crowd. We need to evacuate. The station's shields are failing. We can't let them take the ship. You can't fight them alone. But Taewan wasn't alone. He ran to the Sentinel's echo and placed his hand on the hull. I need your help. People are in danger. Do you command me to fight, Keeper? Taewan hesitated. Commanding felt wrong. The ship wasn't a tool. It was a partner. I'm asking, will you help me protect these people? The door opened instantly. Your request honors the Warden way. Enter and we shall defend together. Inside, Taewan ran to the command chamber. The crystal pillar blazed with light and suddenly he understood what to do. He didn't need training or practice. The ship's knowledge flowed into him. He placed his hands on the pillar, and his consciousness expanded outward. He could see through the ship's sensors, feel its hull as his own skin. The weapon systems awakened and he understood their purpose. Not to kill, but to disable, to protect without destroying. The Sentinel's echo rose from Bay 17, lifting smoothly into space. The attacking ships immediately turned toward it, weapons charging. Taewan felt the ship's power thrumming through him. Energy barriers formed around the station, reinforcing the failing shields. Then he targeted the attacking vessels, not with weapons but with precise electromagnetic pulses. Their systems shut down one by one, leaving them drifting harmlessly. In 3 minutes, the battle was over. The attackers disabled. The station saved. Taewan guided the ship back to Bay 17, his hands shaking. He'd done it. Actually defended the station with an ancient alien warship. But as the adrenaline faded, he felt something else. A disturbance. The Sentinel's echo had broadcast its power across space, and something had noticed. Keeper. The ship's voice said urgently, we have awakened old enemies. The unraveling knows we exist. How long do we have? Days, perhaps weeks. It depends on how quickly they mobilize. Taewan left the ship to find Commander Hyunwoo waiting. For once, the man looked genuinely grateful. You saved us. Thank you. You're welcome. But we have a bigger problem. He explained about the unraveling, about the ancient threat that was now coming for them. Hyunwoo's face went pale. Can your ship fight it? I don't know, maybe, but not alone. That's when Yoonji stepped forward with her tablet. I've been analyzing the data from your fight. Taewon, when you activated the ship's full systems, it sent out some kind of signal. And I'm detecting responses. She showed him the screen. Across space, faint energy signatures were pinging back. Other ships, other warden vessels awakening after millennia of sleep. There are more, Taewon breathed. At least 11 other signals. If we can find them, find their inheritors. We could build a fleet, Hyunwoo finished. A fleet to fight this unraveling. Taewon looked at the Sentinel's Echo sitting quiet and powerful in Bay 17. A week ago, everyone had called it junk. Worthless scrap. Now it might be humanity's only hope. And somehow, impossibly, it had chosen him to be its voice. The responsibility terrified him. But standing there, surrounded by people who finally believed in him, Taewon felt something else too. Purpose. Then we need to start searching, he said, before the unraveling arrives. The real work was about to begin. The coalition fleet arrived within 48 hours. 12 warships bristling with weapons surrounded New Seoul Station. Admiral Kyung-soo commanded them from the flagship, and his first order was simple: surrender the alien vessel. Taewon stood in Commander Hyunwoo's office, watching the warships through the viewport. Taemin sat nearby, looking pleased. This was what he'd been waiting for. The military taking control. You understand this is for the greater good, Kyung-soo said via video link. His face was stern, weathered by years of command. That ship represents technology beyond anything we possess. It must be studied, utilized properly. It won't work for you, Taewon said quietly. Then you'll show us how to make it work. I can't. The ship only responds to its inheritor. That's me. You can't change that. Kyung-soo's expression hardened. Everything can be changed with enough pressure, young man. You're a citizen of Earth Coalition. That makes you subject to our authority. Taewon wanted to argue but didn't know how. He'd never been good with authority figures. Never knew the right things to say. But before he could respond, alarms shrieked through the station. Sir, a technician's voice crackled over the intercom. We have incoming objects. Not ships, something else. The viewport filled with horror. 3 massive structures emerged from the darkness. They looked wrong. Geometric but organic, like crystals made of metal and something that pulsed with sickly light. Each one was the size of a moon and they moved with terrible purpose. What are those? Hyunwoo whispered. Taewon knew. The Sentinel's Echo had shown him. Devourer constructs. The Unraveling's vanguard. As they watched, one of the constructs touched an asteroid. The rock simply dissolved, breaking down into component atoms. Those atoms flowed into the construct, making it grow larger. It was eating matter itself and converting it into more of itself. The coalition fleet opened fire immediately. Missiles, energy beams, kinetic rounds. Everything humanity had developed over centuries of warfare. The constructs ignored the attacks. The weapons either bounced off or were absorbed, feeding the enemy. Fall back, Kyung-soo ordered. All ships retreat to safe distance. But safe distance didn't exist. The constructs were moving toward the station now. In hours, maybe less, they would reach it. And when they did, they would consume everything. The station, the ships, the 30,000 people living here, Taewon ran. Guards tried to stop him, but he pushed past them. He had to reach the Sentinel's Echo. It was the only thing that could fight these monsters. Yoonji caught up with him in Bay 17. The evacuation has started, but we don't have enough ships. We can't get everyone out in time. I know. Taewon placed his hand on the ship's hull. That's why I'm not running. The door opened and he stepped inside. But this time Eunji followed him. What are you doing? Taewon asked. You need help. I've studied the ship's systems. I can assist with power distribution, targeting, whatever you need. It's dangerous. Everything's dangerous now. She smiled, though he could see the fear in her eyes. Besides, somebody has to make sure you don't break anything. In the command chamber, Taewon connected with the ship. The sensation was stronger this time, more complete. He could feel the Sentinel's Echo's readiness. Its eagerness to fight. This was what it had been made for. Show me how to stop them, he said. The ship flooded his mind with information. The Devourer constructs were ancient weapons created by the Unraveling. They couldn't be destroyed by conventional means because they absorbed energy and matter. But they had weaknesses. Their cores maintained the conversion process. Disrupt the cores and the constructs would collapse. How do I disrupt them? Warden weapons fire harmonic pulses. They interfere with the unraveling's corruption at a quantum level. Taewon didn't fully understand, but he didn't need to. The ship knew what to do. He just had to trust it. The Sentinel's echo launched into space. Through the ship's sensors, Taewon saw the Coalition fleet scattered around the station, trying to buy time for the evacuation. The constructs were closer now, close enough that he could see the details of their twisted geometry. Targeting the nearest construct, Yoonji announced. She'd connected to one of the auxiliary stations, her hands dancing across holographic controls. But Taewon, the energy requirements are massive. If you fire the main weapon, the ship's power will drop to critical levels. Can we survive one shot? Maybe, but 3? She shook her head. We'd need to recharge between each attack. And we don't have time, Taewon thought fast. What if we only fought one? Drew it away from the station? You'd be alone against that thing. Better than letting it eat the station. He guided the ship toward the nearest construct, moving between it and New Seoul Station. The thing noticed him immediately. It changed direction, focusing on the Sentinel's echo. Good. That's what he wanted. Charging weapons, Taewon said, feeling the ship's power systems building. Energy flowed through conduits that existed in multiple dimensions at once. It felt like holding lightning in his hands. He fired. A beam of pure white light struck the construct's center. Where it hit, the wrongness simply stopped existing. The corruption dissolved, revealing empty space. The construct shuddered. Cracks spread across its surface, then it exploded, breaking apart into a million pieces of dead matter. You did it, Yoonji shouted, but there was no time to celebrate. The other 2 constructs were moving faster now. One toward the station, one toward the Sentinel's echo. Taewon's hands shook as he recharged the weapons. The ship's power was at 60%, dropping. The weapon took so much energy. He fired again, targeting the construct approaching the station. Another hit. Another explosion, 40% power remaining. The last construct was close now. Too close. Its presence filled the view screen. A nightmare of impossible angles and corrupted space. Taewon, we don't have enough power for another shot, Yoonji warned. The weapons need at least 50% to fire safely. What happens if we fire anyway? The ship could overload. The reactor might destabilize. Will it kill the construct? Probably. But we might not survive it. Taewon looked at the station through the sensors. He could see the evacuation ships launching, filled with people. Some of them were probably workers who'd mocked him, laughed at him, treated him like he was worthless, but they were still people. Still worth saving, Keeper, the Sentinel's echo spoke. I cannot make this choice for you. If you command me to fire, I will obey, but know that the probability of our survival is low. What about the station's survival? Much higher. The blast will destroy the construct and purge the unraveling's corruption from this sector. Taewon thought about his life. Years of being invisible, overlooked, unwanted. Then the ship had found him. Chosen him. Given him purpose. Maybe this was the purpose all along. Not to be a hero, just to do what needed to be done. I'm sorry, he said to Yoonji. Don't be. She gripped her station, knuckles white. This is what we're choosing together. Fire the weapon, Taewon. He connected deeply with the ship, pouring everything he had into it. All his will. All his determination. The ship responded, drawing power from reserves he didn't know existed. The weapon charged past safety limits. Alarms screamed. The hull groaned under the strain. Taewon fired. The light was blinding, pure, perfect. It struck the construct and kept going, burning through its core and out the other side. The thing didn't explode. It simply ceased to exist, erased from reality by Warden technology. But the blast's backlash hit the Sentinel's echo like a hammer. Systems overloaded. The reactor screamed. Taewon felt the ship's pain as his own. Emergency protocols engaged, the ship's voice said, growing distant. Keeper must evacuate. Escape pod launching. No, I'm not leaving you. You must survive. Other ships need their inheritor. The war is not over. Taewon felt himself being pulled away, separated from the ship's consciousness. The command chamber dissolved around him. He was in a small pod shooting away from the Sentinel's echo. Through the pod's window, he watched the ship go dark, silent, falling into emergency stasis to preserve its core. Yoonji's pod drifted next to his. She was unconscious but breathing. alive. Coalition ships collected them within minutes. Medical teams rushed them to the flagship. Taewon woke in a hospital bed. Kyung-soo stood nearby looking thoughtful. "You saved 30,000 lives today," the Admiral said. "And you destroyed an enemy we couldn't even scratch. I was wrong about you. Is the ship alive? Barely. Our engineers say it's in some kind of hibernation, repairing itself. It will take months, maybe years." Taewon closed his eyes. The bond with the Sentinel's echo was still there, faint but present. The ship was sleeping, healing, waiting for him. "There's more," Kyung-soo continued. "When you fired that final blast, it sent out a signal. A powerful one. We're detecting responses from across the galaxy. Other ships? Yes. Warden vessels are waking up, and we need to find their inheritors." Taewon sat up, ignoring the pain. "Then we need to start searching. The first battle was over, but the war had just begun.